What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. Welcome to the 62nd episode of the Comic Book Conservatoire live show. We have a super fun show for you tonight. I'm pumped up. My co-hosts are both here. Everybody's home. It's wild. How long has it been since everybody's been home?
Oh boy, for me it's been few weeks, I think.
I was on the road almost a month. Man, it's nice to be home.
Phil's he's traveling next week.
Yeah.
I was gone for a couple hours, a whole couple of hours today. It's at the beach.
Wow.
So very different from both of you guys. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, people. I am
Hi, people.
Paul, as always, joined by Phil from Phantom Restoration. Say hi, Phil.
Hey, everybody. Phil coming to you live from New York City. Phantom Restoration on Instagram. The website name down below my name. And here to talk comics with these two incredible dudes. How's it going, guys? Great to be here.
Good, man. How are you doing?
Hey.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, I've been just consumed with work stuff, so I've been gone from the show for a bit. So, but I am at home in lovely Folsom, California, and it's nice and hot and sunny here today. I think a little bit over 100 degrees, but you can find me on YouTube, of course, and flyingoutcomics.com. Come see me. Come check me out. If you got any questions, find me on Instagram.
Captain Larry's got some new videos dropping too, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm cranking them out now. I'm home long enough to start doing stuff, and it's been great. And I've been watching everybody else's videos too. Jason's been putting out quite a few.
I have not been able to watch yet, but yeah,
I got mentioned in his last one, so I kind of had to watch it. So,
I noticed Sales Boy added me in one of his videos, but he also used the avatar from our book here, the screaming running gal, in some of his YouTube content, which is a lot of fun. So we have a great show for you tonight. As I mentioned, we have kind of a show in 3 parts. I'm going to do more or less our regular A segment, a little bit different because there just are not a lot of comps for Tech 35, and we'll talk about that. And then I had the privilege of visiting Heroes Con last weekend.
Yeah. How was that?
You know what? It was a lot of fun. But I'm going to give I'll do a teaser.
Okay.
Jim from Bronzeville is here. Jim and I both compete in the CGC registry for leading comics, and I might have gained a couple of points on him over the weekend while I was at Heroes Con. So that's my teaser, but I'll give an update of kind of what I did there and the show, what I thought of it, and then our B segment is actually a segment I'm really looking forward to, which is Larry's conservation project of exciting comics number 39, and I'm kind of shocked at what you pulled off with that one, Captain. So I'm really looking forward to you walking us through it. So
sure, no problem.
Awesome. Before we get started, let's thank the 2 sponsors of this show, which are Robbie Josephs and Don Carter. So if you're watching this live without ads, thank those 2 gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
It looks like we already have one sponsor for next week's show. Thank you.
Collecting Chaos.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Collecting Chaos really doesn't like the ads. So watch it live because those guys are sponsoring so that you don't have to watch ads. If you watch us later, which is awesome, you are watching ads. So be it. Let's say hi. The aforementioned Robbie Josephs checked in, said have a great show. Morris Devereaux is here as usual. Rick Nestor from the Great White North. We have a fair number of Canadians who check in with us each week. My buddy Mike Rom the Space Knight is here. Unbothered Kitty, friend of the show, Kat. Welcome. Nice to see you here. The aforementioned Salesboy Comics, as ever, keeping it moist. Professor Peter Alachi, Experiments in Conservation, is here. Rob is here. Our friend of the channel, Jim from Bronzeville Comics, is here. He says, Dr. Paul's hope for the FF movie is that Johnny has a really sweet ride. Do you guys remember? When Stan Lee said this in several different interviews? I think wrote it in at least one book, where he said one of the things that they tried to do, he and Jack, was add an element of realism to the story. So he said, instead of Johnny Storm driving like a generic sport car, he would drive a very specific vehicle. And so Jim actually did a reading of a comic on his channel recently, and Johnny had very explicitly had a 53 Corvette, and he was trying to get with a gal, going on a date. She was unimpressed, and Jim was like reading and commentating, and he just went right on. I said, what? How are you not calling out very specifically the 53 Vet? It's a very iconic car. But anyway, he said, well, I'm not a car guy, man. But later, Johnny has a 63 Vet, which is another iconic car. I think Johnny has a Jaguar at one point. You know, he's got like a hot rod. He's got a 32 Deuce Coupe. He's got all kind of cool stuff. But anyway, it was a very, Stan apparently told Jack, no, I want a very specific, I want a recognizable, model car, which is kind of fun. And the professor says, some excellent videos from the captain. Awesome. I hope to get caught up soon. Vulu's here. Rom Space Knight says, how was the show in North Carolina? Did you meet Roy? I met some very cool creators. I'm going to just do that as a teaser until later. Unfortunately, I did not meet Roy Thomas. The line for him was very long. I think the only longer line was Chris Claremont. It was bananas. Pluck My Last Nerve is here. David Quintana's here. Bubs Comics, hello and welcome. Oh, yeah, David. I mean, I was around, but, it's a big floor. Why use a road car when you have flying fantastic car? Because it's more cool, Morris. Come on.
It makes them feel human,
That's a silly question. But I'm a car guy, so. I mean, I have modern, electric cars and such like that, but I still drive I drive a car older than I am, which is old. But anyway, all right, let's jump into the A segment because it's fun and because this is a big book.
Tech 35. Wow. And it's conserved. 9.2 conserved. That's amazing.
This is the Larson copy.
Yep, and it's a pedigree.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
This is like one of the top 2 copies of this book in the world.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know if the Mile High is slabbed or not, but big book.
Awesome book.
Yeah,
that's
incredible,
a big book.
Right? Well, it's sold in the past week, so let's jump into it.
Oh yeah.
So people seem to enjoy this last time we did it. So I like digging into kind of some of the key details in history. So Tech 35 is the 9th appearance of Batman, but because he's not on all the covers, it's only his 5th cover. Okay. There are only 11 pre-Robin issues of Batman, of Detective, which is insane, right? Yep. And only 7 of those have Batman on the cover. So if you were, say, interested in pre-Robin issues of Tech with Batman on the cover.
You don't like Robin, do you?
There are only 7 issues. I actually, I like Nightwing. I like Robin as leader of the New Teen Titans.
But not Robin in this era.
I just feel like Robin as a sidekick is rough.
I mean, Larry, just for disclosure,
I don't think he brought a lot to the table here.
There's a thread on the CGC forums that's been there for years and years, maybe even decades called the Pre-Robin Detective Club. So no shade to Robin, but there really is. There's some people that if they're going to collect early Batmans, that's where they draw the line.
Well, I would have to fall guilty to that too, because I would collect the ones without Robin.
Yeah, I think there are some choice ones, but
grown man hanging out with the little boy,
undeniably, until Neil Adams came in, a lot of them were very campy and very, Robin standing on his shoulders.
Well, they're wearing tights.
It's not. That's the thing is, it's not Robin per se. It's what they did with Batman when Robin was around that I don't care for. Yeah. At any rate. So there's not a lot of pre-Robin material is my point, right? I mean, Batman's been around now, 75, 80 years, whatever it's been. And 85, I don't know. I didn't do the math prior to the segment, obviously. But he really was only pre-Robin for like 1 year, right? And then of them, again, there's issues of Detective that have Batman stories in them, but Batman's not on the cover. Obviously, they're much less desirable, especially in the day and age that we live in, which is slabs are king. And so there's really not much to collect if you're interested in pre-Robin tech, especially, again, if you restrict yourself to ones that feature Batman on the cover. And again, they're all phenomenal. They're all going to cost you a mortgage. Or a down payment on a house to get a copy of. But this one here is special. Written by Bill Finger, who's credited now posthumously as the co-creator of Batman with Bob Kane. Bob Kane pencils with Sheldon Moldoff backgrounds in the lead Batman feature story. Interestingly, the interior Batman story on this book, literally nothing to do with the cover.
Yeah.
Neither of these cats here are in the interior. They have nothing to do with the story. I'm going to show you a couple panels from the interior story. And then, as we mentioned, Larson pedigree on this bad boy. Whew. Larson, what a pedigree. Well, I'll get into that a little bit too. So this is what we're talking about. This was like noir detective stuff. This was dark stuff. This was pulpy, not campy.
Batman with a gun.
Or before Robin shows up, right?
Yeah.
So Batman's there with a pistol, not a revolver, by the way, very modern at the time. So that's the splash page, Batman with a smoking gun. And then I don't want to, no spoilers, I guess, on this 85-year-old story, but Batman defeats the villain here by throwing a ruby statue at him so hard that it knocks him in the face and hurtles the guy out the window to his death.
Well, we don't see it. We don't. It's off panel, but it does say death. So that's
literally says and hurtles
to his death. Yes.
So he's literally meting out justice with a capital sentence here.
Oh yeah.
And once Robin shows up, that changes. So it just becomes a different book, a different story, a different character. And so anyway, for those of you not aware or familiar, this is why we talk about these pre-Robin tech books. Let's talk about the Larson pedigree for a little bit. Named for a fella named Lamont Larson. Over 1,000 issues. Very early pedigree, this pedigree, from 36 only to 41. Like, it ends in the pre-war era when, many comic books haven't even come out yet. No. It is also doesn't have a lot of funny animal or other stuff that's less desirable today. It's almost all superhero and action titles. So Lamont had really good taste. The collection includes an Action 1, Marvel Mystery Comics 1, All-American 16, Superman 1. I mean, it includes most of the heavy hitters from the era. Interestingly, the big books that are not included in the pedigree are Tech 27, All-Star 3, and Flash 1. But even so, the books that are in this pedigree are monsters. And as you can see, The grade here is phenomenal. Lamont wrote his name in most of the books, but he was unknown. This collection was known for some time and was recognized essentially as a pedigree. It took somebody going through a bunch of the issues. They finally found a coupon that little Lamont had filled out with his address in Nebraska. From that, they traced him to Nebraska and then traced him forward as an adult and actually eventually figured out who Lamont Larson was. And in later years, he was actually celebrated as the original collector of this pedigree. And he even was a guest of honor at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep.
All from some detective work.
Yeah.
So very cool pedigree. Yeah, very cool pedigree.
That is very cool.
Detective Comics 35. Look at this census count. 99 all grades, all issues, 53 universal. So that's down there, right? So not many more than, for example, Action 1 or Tech 27 in terms of universal copies. One signature, not sure whose. 36 restored, 4 qualified, only 5 conserved. So again, we're not going to see them come up for auction very often. As a matter of fact, before I move on, so this is January of 1940, so very early Golden Age, pre-war. Yeah. This, no first appearances here of any sort. This is just considered a classic cover. It is, as I mentioned before, the 5th Batman cover. Yeah. And median grade quite low here, 3.5. And that indicates a truly rare book. That means, a valuable book like this, almost every copy has been slabbed. And, they're survivors. They're much loved.
Yeah.
So speaking of, they don't trade hands very often, check this out. Prior to this book, these are universal, but nothing has sold since 2017 above the 6.5 that sold last year. Yeah. So if you are a whale and you own this book, it's not trading hands very often, right? It's the kind of book that goes
wait a lifetime for that.
Yeah, it's the kind of book that trades hands generationally, usually, sometimes not even that. As I said, I'm not sure. I didn't do my homework on the 9.4, whether that's the Mile High or whether, that's some other pedigree. I don't know. But there is one kind of relevant book that I'll just talk about briefly. 6.5 did sell last year. And it was...
I recognize that website. Comic Connect.
Yeah, it sold on Comic Connect, and it's the Rockford copy. And the Rockford copy sold 12/14. Oh, not in the last year. This was the most recent sale, though. 12/14/2022. So
2.5 years ago.
Yeah. 2.5 years ago, sold for $80,000
plus the 15%.
Oh, that's right.
Which, it's possible they could have had a negotiation. I would imagine it's probably there. So yeah, you're gonna add. That's 90K, right? Something like that.
I think this includes the buyer's premium.
Because it says a 15% will be added to this item at the conclusion.
I know that it says that, and that's a little bit confusing, but once it's ended, the price reflects it.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. That's good.
It does. I double checked it on a previous segment that I did. So it is 80, but then again, if you pay sales tax, that's another 10 grand or more on this, right? Yeah. Or 5 to 8 grand, depending on where you live. Yeah. And so over 80 for sure. Also a beautiful book. The Rockford Pedigrees is an interesting one. I am fortunate to own one book from the Rockford pedigree. My All-Star number 4 is actually from the Rockford. So
very cool.
Yeah. But 80 G's for a 6.5 universal. So what do we think about 9.2 from the Larson, but conserved? So
I don't even want to guess at it. That's crazy.
it was graded in 2016. Cover cleaned is all it says.
That's it.
Front cover erasure mark, spine stress lines, top spine bindery chip out, bottom spine bindery tear. These are, I mean, it's basically a perfect book.
Yeah.
The cover was cleaned, and so it got this conserved denotation. Again, if you remember the population census, there's only one book higher than this, all grades, all labeled.
I saw
right?
it.
There's a 9.4 universal, but there's no 9.2. There's nothing higher than that universal, and there's no 9.0 or I don't think there's even an 8.5 universal. So
one of the nicest looking copies of this book that exists.
Absolutely.
Pretty darn cool.
So let's take a closer look. You can see a tiny little
one spine tick.
You can see one spine tick, right?
Ugly.
You see a little chip on the right edge there in the green field. Yeah. But what a stunner.
Yeah, it's a beautiful copy.
What?
I hate seeing it, conserved for just cover cleaned. I mean, that's harsh.
Well, it's hard to say what was done. We don't know.
I know.
We don't know what we don't know. It is interesting to me that it was slabbed way back in 2016. I mean, the conservation label was pretty new at the time.
Sure was.
And it's fair to say that definitions for these things have actually shifted a little bit.
I'm just wondering if you resubbed it, it'd be a very expensive endeavor.
Yeah,
that's when you'd have to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to, I think, discuss with CGC about the grade.
Well, I know they keep internal notes that we don't get to see.
Right, and it's the Larson copy, right? So
yeah.
You don't just have to say, well, what do we think about, why was this? Is there any chance that it could be reconsidered?
I've had books reconsidered once, slabbed that because I'm the one that slabbed it and I knew that it should have been changed. If it wasn't changed, then a new owner could be the one that submits it, and then they don't know why, but the book comes back without a cover clean notation. That could happen here.
Sure.
Not incredibly likely, but not
and
impossible.
Again, like you got to get it recognized as a Larson pedigree. So that's the thing, is that's going to be in their records, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
Unreal, right? Unreal.
Yeah, it shows really well.
The title of this video is this conserved comic worth 80 grand? So I thought we'd do something a little bit different here. Okay. Because there are no comps. So there's no way for me to say this sold as a certain percentage of Universal. Yeah. Just they don't even exist, right? There is no other
numbers.
There's no other 9.2s in the world. There's one 9.4. It hasn't changed hands in years. So what I thought we'd do is I showed you an $80,000 6.5 pedigree book, the Rockford copy. And I thought what we'd do is just do an over-under here. So instead of guessing 80, let's just guess over 80 or under 80. Again, this book hammered this week. So this is a fresh sale. I'm sure the person who won it probably doesn't even have possession yet. What do we think, guys?
I'm going to be over. Because there's just not the copy shows so well, and there's only one copy that's higher than this, so I'll go over 80.
All right,
I'm gonna go just under. Now I'm just gonna say just a side note to something you said earlier, Dr. Paul, and that is how these books don't trade hands that frequently. Up until maybe 10 years ago, you would see these trade hands more frequently. But in the last 10 years, in a very hyper cover-driven market and how scarce these books are, it doesn't take more than a couple dozen people to get their copy of this and say, I'm not selling this at least right now or unless I'm upgraded. And then all of a sudden, you're so limited on your options, chances are the one that you want is either not nice enough or what. I mean, it's it becomes a very limited print run.
Oh yeah, I mean, just think that the Rockford 6.5 sold 2.5 years ago for 80 grand, right? So
yeah. One thing though,
how many books sell for 80 grand in 6.5?
Yeah,
you can count them on one hand. You know.
I think that there are enough people, especially at this price point, that are more purist mentality than open to conservation. So I'm sure this still did a good price, but I'm sure it didn't go crazy. So I can see it going in like the 70s. That's still
your point
a percentage of what it would be.
Your point being that when you get to these echelons, the whales tend to be more discerning and tend to stay away from conserved.
Even given how rare it is, because it just, you still can't be like, well, I'll just get this other book.
I get your rationale. Yeah. Well, before I read, I'll catch up on chat. Robbie Joseph says, question, I have a Ghost Rider number 150.
I was looking at that.
That's like an 80 or 85, but it has some browning on the interior cover. How much would that affect the grade? I think my answer is a little bit. I think in that, if it was a 9.4, then they're going to maybe knock a whole half point or a point off. If you're already in the 8 to 8.5 range, it may not affect it. Like if it's an 8, it may not affect the grade at all. Maybe it'll drop it to a 7.5. Not sure. That's my thoughts. I don't, Larry or Phil, do you want to opine?
Well, no. Well, the thing is I think the direction of it is, the question is, should I clean it? The interior tanning, and I would say if the book's showing at an 8 to an 8.5, I would probably leave it alone, because you're going to risk over cleaning it, and the minute you do that, you're going to get flagged and it's going to go conserved.
Yeah.
So I would leave it alone. It's just one of those things that you just have to live with. It's like oxidation. You just the page is off gas, and that's just part of the deal. I would stay away from cleaning it, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's not enough to pick up. Your technical grade is not
you're just not going to gain anything from it.
Bub says Golden Age selection at Heroes Con was better than it had been the last 2 years. There was a lot of Golden Age in the room. There really was. I thought a lot of it was very expensive, but there was a lot of Golden Age in the room. Robbie also says, Bronzeville, love your channel. We all love Bronzeville's channel.
Just before we move on, can I just make a quick note? Just maybe it's like a bit of arrogance, but I really like to hope that you could look back at some of these videos 10, 15, 20 years from now, if they're still there, and like we're talking about these books now and how people might view them. And I really hope that there is more. It seems reasonable, at least, that like books that had conservation will be viewed as enhanced, especially like cleaning will be viewed as preservation, in the same way where restoration is viewed stigmatized because it's deceiving, what's there. I think that hopefully we're at the forefront of that now, especially given some of the percentages of the universal grades and their corresponding grade points, that we've been looking at over the last year and a half. We've seen some surprising examples that would surprise a lot of people, if they see what people feel comfortable paying.
You know what I think is
not fair.
No, we're not.
You know, a long time, but I think it's maybe in my lifetime. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's going to take a long time, ultimately.
I actually think what it's going to take is a non-destructive measurement of pH. I think if CGC could say covered deacidified here instead of cover cleaned.
Yeah, that might be different.
It's less of
I think it would be a whole new world. And
I agree.
Hey, Dr. Paul, I want to interrupt you, but that event you were wanted to be notified of is coming up very quickly.
Okay. I see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Silver Spidey. Welcome. Bucky did not have to wear a Speedo. That is... go check out Salesboy's channel, guys. It's always fun. Let's see. Where was the comment that somebody highlighted a few times from Bub? Oh, here we go.
One thing
I agree with this generally. I think this is the sort of thing where the only place where there might be some room on this is if CGC has shifted their guidelines or how they would view this in the last few years, because this was graded in 2016, so it's almost a decade ago. The way that they view
that's right when they first came out
has shifted, and so I think maybe a conversation with CGC about the book, how they view it, how they view the cleaning, how they view that cleaning today, that would be your only hope. I tend to agree with you. Generally speaking, this is irreversible, but that would be the one place where I think there might be some possibility for daylight here. Let's start with the guesses. So Salesboy is at 80, Plucked is under, I guess, by definition, since he's at 79.99. The Professor's at over, Rick Nestor's under, Rob is over. He says over. Pluck My Last Nerve under. KK says definitely over. New Row, welcome to the channel, says under. Rom Space Knight says he came from the land down under. I guess that means he's on the under. Bubs is under. Sales Boy is over. Robbie Joseph's a little under. Over or mid. Sales Boy guessed 3 times. I think that's why he always wins. Just kidding, Sales Boy. Phil changed You Pluck My Last Nerve's mind, so I guess that means he's changing his to under. Overcleaning is rampant on YouTube. So much color is being lost. Well, I think that's probably true, though I don't tend to watch that much on YouTube. Bronzeville says, thank you for the kind words. Blue Garland says, how is the pricing at Heroes? I already mentioned that briefly, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. Billy Pilgrim, welcome, says, Heroes Con was fun. Some deals with smaller vendors. Rick Nestor wonders if I picked up an issue of All-Star. I did not, but I did make a commitment to get one. My buddy David, the Starman, says 81, so I guess he's an over. Bronzeville's over. Pluck My Last Nerve is over. Did I cut you off, Phil? Did you want to say something before the reveal?
No, I guess it's just like I'm just trying to rationalize how it's not it isn't a rational argument to talk about how these will be viewed 150 years from now, because we'll all be dead. None of us will be but from an objective point of view, any book that's cleaned now before the paper's degraded further, before it's deacidified, it's just going to be in better shape than others. So it just seems like we're living in just a weird state where it's try to keep it in ideal conditions, but objectively, if something's cleaned, it's just preserved for a longer duration. So that's why I'm just, I guess, hopeful that with things like you said, the clarification of the cover clean, if CGC says deacidified, and then there's a more understanding of if that was done, maybe this should be worth more than maybe it shouldn't be penalized, and then that's helps to kind of change.
I think it behooves all of us as conservators to work on these big problems of our field. One of which is, can we get a non-destructive way to measure pH reliably and quickly enough that CGC could actually imagine if, in addition to white pages, it said pH 7.5 or pH 4.5 or pH 8.5. I think it would make a huge difference personally. I mean, it would matter to me. But
that I don't know if it can be done without it being destructive.
Well, again, this is for us to work on. There's a lot of things that 100 years ago it couldn't be done, that you could fly a 747. So these are things that need to be worked out. All right, here we go.
What's the reveal? Drum roll.
Boom. Oh, just under.
Okay. Just under. Kind of a trick question. I think everybody won. I think somebody got a hell of a book for this price.
Oh, I think so too.
This is not a book I was in the market in, unfortunately. It'd be great to be in the market for this kind of a book, but I wasn't. I would rather have this book than the technically the Rockford went for more. I mean, not much more. You could just might as well call it's a rounding error. Might as well call it the same.
Yeah.
But I would much rather have this book than the Rockford copy.
Me too.
Yeah. So
just strictly for what we were just talking about, if conservation goes more mainstream and people recognize it for what it is, this book will be worth much more in the future. Your kids can sell it.
Phil, what do you think this book is worth in Universal 9.2?
Universal 9.2, if this came up, I mean, I could see it going easily $400K. I don't think that's unreasonable.
I don't either. It's at least $250,000 in my mind, and I wouldn't be shocked if it hit $500,000.
That's what I was thinking, somewhere between.
You've only got one book nicer. It's the 5th Batman cover, one of the best.
Yeah.
Like, as we discussed, there's only 8 pre-tech, pre-Robin issues of tech. If you're into that sort of thing, there isn't, Yeah. Well, anyway. Hopefully people thought that was fun. I had fun putting that together and researching it. And what a book. What a book.
That's a great book.
For those that haven't seen, how cool is that cowl he's got? I mean,
right.
And the way it kind of breaks through the mask a little bit. But that was just one of those features where he really is like, that's the Dark Knight right before Robin came in. Not to throw shade on Robin, but, he made him so he's not the Dark Knight anymore. He's just Batman for a while.
He didn't. Bill Finger did. Not Robin's fault. All right, so let's talk HeroCon. I had a great time there. Caught up with a bunch of friends. Shout out to so many people. Actually, I saw Richard from Bedrock Comics. Spent quite a bit of time with him. I had dinner with Vinny Zerzullo and his employees and family, which was super gracious of him to invite me. I really appreciated that. Hung out with, I did see Matt Nelson briefly. They were just slammed with, oh my goodness, the line for real time. So those of you that don't know, they had real time comic book drop offs. So they had moved their whole operation there. They were in an adjacent room in the convention center that they rented out, kind of like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. And raw comic books went in and slabbed books came out like hours later or the next day. It was incredible. So there was a huge line of people for drop-offs for that service. I got to see Barry, who we featured 3 episodes ago of the Comic Presser. And he had his operation going there, cleaning, pressing, whitening in real time with the folks at Golden, who I got to meet and chat with. There's just so much was going on. I do want to highlight a few things.
Saw quite a few photos from that place.
Where to start? This is where I'll start. So some of you will recognize this book if you're longtime viewers of the channel. America's Best Comics, number 12. This is a book that I bought. It was restored, probably, I estimated, I think, as like a restored 2, approximately.
I remember that book.
Yeah. And I did a whole, I would go solo here just so people can see. I did a whole conservation series on this, got it back as a 4.0 conserved. Here's something, though, that happened with this book. Although it's 4.0, it's conserved, it's clearly blue with the gray bar. When you see right here, it used to read restoration includes, and then it included all of my conservation, which it shouldn't say that. It should say conservation includes. So I reached out to CGC and I said, what's going on with that? And they said, it's a mechanical error. You could submit the book back to us. And I said, that seems like a drag. I don't really want to mail this book back to you. But then I more recently restored, I should say conserved this book. This is another book that was a restored book. This is Flash Comics number 20 from August of 1941. This also had glue on it. And I did the restoration removal. I bought this one raw. It's probably like a 2.5 restored, I would have guessed. Removed the glue. Conserved the book, got the conserved grade, but again, they did the same thing right here. it said restoration includes instead of conservation includes. So that was enough for me. I took both of the slabs with me to the con, and I subbed them there live. Nice. And I said, "Oh, Larry's vacated."
Nope, I'm here.
I subbed it there live, and I said, "Fix this," and they did. They came back to me the next day. They comped all of the fees, and it was
incredible.
Because it is, it's their goof, right?
Way to use the show for your advantage. It's awesome.
So that was cool. I got that done. It's almost like magic that they can slab these things in like real time. It's crazy.
Can I ask one thing? Did they have an increased grading cost
I was wondering that too.
So it was like a 2-part question. Normally, if we submit, you have the account, you get 3.2% instead of 4%, right? So how did they factor that in? And
they did. So it is slightly higher, but I would say this. To me, it still seemed like a freaking bargain because there's no shipping.
Yeah.
So even if they raised the price an extra $25, they zeroed out the shipping.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a zero-sum game, right? So you're ahead. And then the other thing is, essentially, they all received like better than unlimited walkthrough service because they were all turned around in 1 or 2 days.
Yep.
They turned around
better than walkthrough.
Yeah, they turned around all the books before you left on Sunday.
Yep.
Which, again, I saw Matt, Matt was working like a madman. I texted with him, but he was just like, "We're slammed. This is nuts." Like I said, they got a lot of submissions. They did very well. Good for them. I did another. Again, it almost feels like magic. So I already gave a few shout outs for dealers that were there. Those of you that know Sharon and Steve Ritter, they run Worldwide Comics. They're in San Antonio. They were there. And they had a book with them that I've been eyeballing for a while. And this is the one I teased earlier, Jim, from Bronzeville. It was Leading Comics #2. And it was the Mile High copy.
Oh.
Now, Steve had already, but it was raw. Steve had already pressed it, and he had estimated the grade at 8.5 to 9. I had actually mentioned that I was interested in this book to them prior and asked them to make sure they brought it with them. They had it listed on their website for a while, I think at least a year. They've been in possession of the book for quite a while. And so I had a look at it. I flipped through it page by page, and no shade to Steve, I thought it was an 8.5 plus or minus a half. So in my mind, it was either an 8. My mind, it was probably an 8.5, but it could be an 8, could be a 9. I didn't really think it was a 9. I think that was pushing it. But again, they gave me a great price on it. I gave them partial cash, and so they gave me a discount off what they were asking. I thought what they were asking was fair, so I was very happy with that. I gave $2,400 for the book, and then I walked straight over to the CGC booth and subbed it, and I got it back the next day in pedigree livery.
Wow.
And I'm just
on the mark.
So thrilled with this book. Check it out.
That's great. That's a great book. I love the cover.
#2.
Great cover layout. Yep.
8.5. So in my I have a Leading Comics registry collection. I'm in second place right now behind our buddy David Schaefer. And as I mentioned before, Jim is actually in third place. Jim from Bronzeville is in third place.
Oh, nice.
And so this is not enough points to get me into first place, but I'm thrilled with it nonetheless. This also, funny enough, there's another CGC registry collection. It's DC Golden Age first appearances. This is the first appearance of the Black Star. So this fella featured here in the middle is a villain, a recurring villain from the Golden Age. And this is his first appearance. So this also slots into my DC Golden Age first appearances registry collection. I'm the points leader of that collection, but not by much. I'm actually edging out David Schaefer by just a few points. So this will help pad my lead in that one as well. I feel
awesome
like
cover.
the price I paid for it was very fair. I'm thrilled with the outcome. I'm thrilled with the fact that CGC, I mean, again, it feels almost like magic that they can turn that around in a day. So that was cool. And then I did have one other pickup. This is actually for a friend of the channel, Jason the Archivist. This is, check out his channel here on YouTube. This is Startling Comics with the Schomburg cover. This is number 23. And it's got some Japanese fellas that are depicted in a not so flattering way. And
it's a good way to put it.
This book is a sort of a project book. So I looked at it as a potential project book, decided to pass on it, but I talked to the sellers were dangerously terrific. Shout out to them. And I took a few pictures. I sent them to Jason. I said, are you interested? Because I know this is stuff that he likes, this neater stuff. And the first 2 or 3 wraps were completely split. But everything's there. The only material missing is white, gutter material. So great candidate for casting.
For casting, yeah.
As I said, Schomburg war cover, hard to beat. They took $50 off, and I bought this. Jason bought it for $200. So
that's great. That's good. That's a good deal for a Schomburg book.
I thought so. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked if he was interested. I also bought a few other kind of like 80s era books, a few things just to get signed by different creators. I did meet some creators. I got a chance to speak to Chris Claremont at breakfast. He was gracious and delightful. I bumped into Jim Starlin a few times, and he was also a lot of fun to chat with. There were a bunch of other creators there. I bought a couple of books to be signed by Michael Golden. And yeah, there were a ton of creators, way more creators there than any other con I've ever been to. I did not primarily go there for the creators, but if that's your thing, you couldn't hardly do better. I mean, you could come there with hundreds of books to sign. CGC was witnessing signatures and then slabbing in real time. It really, I think, depending on what angle, what part of the hobby you're interested in, it was there. There were a ton of Golden Age books in the room. I will say this: I was not shopping for silver, bronze, or any other material. I don't know if those were priced to move or not. Golden Age books in general, I felt were not priced to move. I felt like they were above auction prices. Oh. Pretty much every
Paul, your microphone, your audio is cutting out, Paul.
Your audio just went funny.
Speak,
and you shall be heard.
Okay, now can
any better?
Yeah. It just got muffled.
So again, there may have been very good pricing for silver, bronze, other material. I was really only had eyes for Golden Age. I didn't see anything that I had to have other than the leading comics you saw. I did make a commitment to buy a big book, but I didn't purchase it there. But I agreed upon a price with the dealer on a pretty big issue of All Star. I'll unveil that when I actually make it happen. Okay. But in general, I didn't see anything that I had to pay full retail plus 20%. And that's where I felt most of it.
Your audio's cutting out again.
Yeah. Check your cables.
I don't know what's going on here. That's my report anyway. So let's send it over to you, Larry, with your segment.
Well, actually, Phil's got something on his desk I was curious about. I'm just
Oh.
being nosy.
No,
I
no,
kind
no.
of wanted to see what he's got. He's hiding behind his shoulder.
If you want, I can do a quick show and tell before you go into your segment, because there was one other thing
Please do. You
that's
piqued my
related.
curiosity now.
This is a beautiful. Hey, so full disclosure, I gotta make a revision on my website, but I'm one of the people that can work on signature series books, pedigree books, collection books, and retain the label after I work on them.
Ooh.
So in this case, other people that work on books, unless you have approval, you'll lose the yellow label and you can only get a verified signature. In this case, this was a 4.0 restored, and now it's a 3.0 universal signature series book for a client who's very happy and going to be picking this up in the next few days. And man, it's my job to toe the line, and enough people are okay with a book. I mean, equity-wise, an incredible increase in equity. Visually, if you know to look for it, you can see that the book has had traces of color touch removal. Now, in my opinion, they're not going to make a case against that, but also those were color break increases. The color touch wasn't just put there indiscriminately. So they're accentuated color break increases. That's the way I view it, and the way my client viewed it. I mean, he's happier than.
I think that's awesome.
Huge equity bump.
The overall eye appeal, the main Spider-Man image is incredible. Most of the damage is regulated to the spine and just upper quadrant, and a crease there. But really, the reds on him, so incredible. That nice Stan Lee's signature right underneath.
That is awesome.
This was a cool book to get to work on, and a nice little bump, and also nice to get to.
Yeah.
This was the first one that I've got to keep the yellow label. So
that is awesome. Yeah, that is about the most beautiful 3.0 AF15 I've ever seen.
That's a gorgeous book.
Yeah. The way they've been hitting my books, I was anticipating a 2.5. So they're going to give this a 3. I am not, and I think it's deserving. I do. So yeah, very happy.
Let's run through a couple quick videos. Professor says it is possible to read pH on a dry surface. The instrument is expensive. Hey, just have Salem University buy one. Come on.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's do some shout out to fellow creator. Bub says his HeroCons haul video drops tomorrow. 3 Golden Age raw books. I bet you could find some good raws for collections. That wasn't what I was. Well, I kind of was, I guess. I found one raw. I've heard this from a few people. On-site grades have always come back higher than expected. I heard this from a few people. I don't know. I don't have much experience. My 2 were just basically relabeled, and then the 8.5 I think is squarely where I expected it. But the idea being that they're just in a little bit of a hurry, and they may miss something, or they just may not fixate on something that they would if they were back. Lots of kudos for the book. Thank you. Appreciate all of those. And yeah.
I think it's a time perception thing where people are submitting books and immediately, instead of people submitting books and you're waiting to find out what the grade is. And then you just hear a preponderance of grades that come back with favorable grades, and then it sounds like there's favoritism, but really, at least from what I've seen, and maybe Paul, you can lend a second opinion to that since you submitted books, but it seems like they're still pretty consistent.
Yeah, well, like I said, the other 2 were just relabeled, so there was no grade change. The leading was right exactly where I put it. So, but obviously that's just one book, so that's not much of an experience. Yeah. All right.
If I could just spend like 30 more seconds too, I'll just throw one other quick thing. So I was on eBay earlier this week in typical fashion, and I'm just looking for art, and I see this Invincible piece of art that's from a crucial part in the story. And the auction was ending in about an hour and 10 minutes. So I was like, well, the price seemed to be pretty reasonable. I sent the seller a question about, some of the dimensions, and I threw in a bid, and I ended up winning. And the seller's name had Brooklyn in it. So I was in the background hoping, hey, this would be great if I could just meet up with this guy. sends a message, hey, since I now have your address, I can meet you off the L train. I was like, that sounds great. It said Friday. So I meet this guy in the parking lot of my laundromat off the L train. And he pulls this piece out of a bag. And for those that have read the series, or if you don't know, this is your cue to be like, oh, they go hard in the series. It's the scene where 3 characters literally destroy an entire planet with the help of a gun by flying through it. And like the next panels show the destruction in parts of it's completely decimated. I don't think that this really happens in a lot of the more mainstream titles. So this is one of those Invincible kind of taking it to the next level.
That's a cool piece of art.
And one side note, this ring around the planet is a ring of dead Viltrumites that have been killed and thrown into outer space as they were doing selective breeding, for the ultimate warrior. So as people got killed, so it's a dark series.
Wow. That's a very dark series.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, that's great.
And good pickup. All right. Speaking of pickups,
I'm excited to see Larry tell us all about what he did with this.
All right. Yeah, this was an interesting project. I like to pick weird stuff. So I like Schomburg books. And I saw this one. This was on Heritage. And there was zero mention of it being a Siamese wrap. And I looked at it, and I didn't even think twice of it. I just go, man, that's a pretty good price. And for a nice looking book, I mean, aside from the paper hanging out the side of it, it shows really nice. It just has a spine roll. So I jumped on it. And this was the exact Heritage description. I mean, there's just no mention of anything on it. They valued it as a 2.0, which I thought was odd. Because it shows way better than that. So anyway, I went after. Yeah, go ahead.
They called it Good Plus, which would technically be 2.5.
Yeah, that would be. That's true.
Doesn't change your conclusion, but yeah,
it didn't change my conclusion at all. And so I picked it up. So. Go ahead and go to the next slide. You can see how bad the spine roll is. That's a solid 3/4 of an inch sticking out. Yeah. Now, a Siamese wrap. And in fact, we can go to the next slide. You can see a picture. Matt Nelson provided this one, but this is what a Siamese wrap looks like. It's basically the blade misses the page when it's cut. And for some reason or another, it's tucked inside. Now, this is usually maybe it could be a 1/4 inch, it could be a couple inches. Rarely is it full length where the pages are bound. And there's usually about 4 pages involved in a single slice.
Right.
And in this
the way these are printed, sorry to interrupt, but just to help folks visualize this, they're printed 4 images, both sides, so that's technically like 8 total pages. Then they're folded, and then the folded edge is cut, which then turns them into 4 pages. So that's what is supposed to happen in the manufacturing process. Sometimes you'll get a part of that edge folded inside the book. Then when the blade comes down, it misses it, and then those are stuck together. Sometimes you call that a maverick page too, I believe. And that's similar to this image here.
Yeah, and basically these Golden Age books. I mean, it's not like you would not find a Siamese page in anything Silver Age or modern. Hardly at all. But the Golden Age books, I find them not quite often, but often enough that you'll see something.
Enough.
So I looked at this one and.
Larry, can I just say something too? And I'm going to send you the proof because I either have it still on my Instagram page or archived. But I worked on a copy of this with a spine roll just like this when I first started working on books years back. And the before and after looked uncannily similar. I just didn't have sign these pages on mine. But I think yours is a little bit nicer. But I swear I saw someone else post on Instagram in the last 6 months a copy of this book with the spiral, and I was like, is it me just noticing copies of this book that are there? Does this book have like some kind of, like over time it just
there might have been, a whole run of these things. So that were like this. It's not just an individual book.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you.
No, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
So, but in this book, I mean, like this picture from that Matt provided, there's about 3 or 4 inches of there that's bound. The rest of it's split properly. But this particular book that we're talking about, the Exciting Comics 49, every single, it's like Dr. Paul said, there's 8 pages in one of these sheets. Well, that 16 wrap book, that's basically, we just covered every single page. And so this entire book was Siamese. Wow. Now you're the kid buying it off the rack in the 1940s, and you don't realize until you get home, it's like, well, I want to read this. So you run your finger down it. And that's the quickest way to get it open. And this is how it survived, and this is how it came to me. And so I actually talked to CGC, I talked to Matt Nelson, and he said to keep it in a universal label, which is what I wanted to do. You needed to precisely refold all the pages the way they should be in the book. So number one, it'll fit in the slab, and it also looks, basically best you can get. There's very little, if any, paper loss. There's a couple spots that you could see there is some paper loss. If you want to go to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay. So
that's a great picture right there to show.
Yeah. It's perfect. I mean, this is one of those 4-sheet wraps. I just basically folded it together, and you can see how the tear was. Now, this book has already been cleaned and the wraps pressed flat. Now it needed to be, you can see the cut lines at the very top right there. The photo, you see the black lines across the top. That's the top vertical cut line. Yep. Now, finding the correct point to fold the book where it should have been split. A lot of times you'll have a vertical cut line that was not present on these wraps. So I had to measure everything. And it was just a very detailed, time-consuming effort to do. Now, you go ahead and go to the next page, next slide. All right, so here's what we did, the course of action. Disassembled the book. It was fully wet cleaned, deacidified like we do for everything. Then I pressed the wraps flat. And that's my working material now.
Can I ask a question that isn't, or it feels like I'm not asking questions, more so for people that haven't done this, they would be like, why wouldn't you just fold it back across like a seam that would have already been there, which may not have been there? But also, if you're washing it, that's going to remove folds too.
Correct.
Like trace elements of that. So that's why you would have to measure.
That's why I have to measure, because this is what we do. We do conservation. So I want to deacidify things, and I like, it's like a painter working with a clean canvas. So this is where we got it to. And then you can see on the bottom picture there was just refolding. And some of these pieces that I folded in were maybe a 1/16 of an inch. I mean, they're really difficult to work with.
Oh yeah.
And really get it done. But every single wrap, including the cover, was deacidified. Then once we got everything there, the whole objective, because originally the book would not fit into a normal Golden Age slab,
right?
Without touching it. It was just, it would have gone in a magazine slab, and that.
I hope you viewers are paying attention and you heard what he just said. This entire interior was cleaned and deacidified. So take note of that if you're taking.
We got to preserve it for the next 100 years. It was liquid deacidified. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay. So I had previously done this on another Schomburg book, Thrilling Comics. Now, instead of doing this, however, of refolding things, I actually rebonded the wraps. This is the vertical portion of the cut. And then I sliced it correctly, but it looked great. It presented great, but it resulted in a conserved grade. And it is a good conserved grade. Don't get me wrong. I was very happy to get a 7.5 on this book.
I can see why you want to do that too. I get it.
Oh yeah, and the thing is in my ignorance, I didn't know any better, to be honest. I just said this doesn't look right. I'm going to make it look right. And
when you say that, you just mean from like a equity perspective, like trying to keep the book universal label more specific.
Oh no, I wasn't even trying that. I was just, it was something that it just looked wrong.
Yeah, you didn't even know what the defect was at the time.
No, I didn't.
Gotcha.
And
you didn't know it was production related even. Oh,
okay. I remember. Yeah, I remember this project, and I remember the solution you came up with, and it was not what I would have come up with. And I remember thinking, that really worked out well. He did a great job.
Still work. 7.5 is a crazy grade for that.
Yeah, 7.5 for a wartime Schomburg cover. You bet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was thrilled with the book, and as you can see, that was done with the Japanese paper and wheat paste, and it's hardly noticeable, really. So anyway, I didn't want to go this route. So I went ahead and did the folds as we talked about. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, this is what the before and after looked like.
Wow.
So you can see the spine roll has been corrected.
Chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
Now, if you look at the back cover on the spine roll, you cannot fully correct that back because it was miscut. That is the best you're going to get. There's still going to be a good, there's at least probably 3/8 of an inch protruding, but it's just the way it was cut. You cannot get it correct. So I was happy with the way it came out. So and cleaning it was a big bonus too. I mean, you could see the dirt removed from it, and that was part of the deacidification. Things like that. And just for people's clarity, I did not dry clean this book. Not at all. This is all done with liquid. So
I was going to ask if you dried
so much brighter
before the cover bath, but
I did not.
No. Do you find it to be? Do you find it to? Well, I'm not. Hold on, because.
So
hey, remember all you people I told to take notes, and now you're looking at this book. A
universal blue label.
This is what we've been calling blue label conservation. And obviously, Matt, CGC was aware of what you did. You always send grading. You always send conservation notes in.
I do.
In this instance, further, you were communicating with Matt what you had done with the book. So they're full aware of this. This is not I snuck one by them. This is I walked in the front door. I told them what I was doing, and this is
Matt Nelson himself knew exactly about this book. He and I discussed it and shared pictures, and so
great outcome.
You still can get a universal label. Wet cleaning a book. People say, "Oh, you get it wet, you're never going to get a blue." That's not true. I've done this on other books as well. So it's just how you do it.
It's how well you do it. Yep.
To clarify too, though, it is how well you do it, but there is still that one variable aspect where sometimes there can be some dimensional change in covers.
Correct.
That will give a tell. So just to anyone watching this too, being like, oh my God, I can do this for an absolute certain. It seems, and Larry has done this probably more than anyone in recent times on a lot of books, that this can happen, and there's a very good chance of it happening, but it isn't 100% certainty.
Well, let's talk about dimensional changes. The interior wraps are going to change dimensionally different from a cover wrap. It's like you got two different types of paper and things like that. So a cover wrap will dimensionally change. It will narrow and grow lengthwise, where an interior wrap, that newsprint is actually going to get wider and shorter. And so when you put these two things together, they can they really it gets exaggerated. The cover just looks like it came from a different book.
Yeah.
So part of this process, people, is how you once you get it wet is how you dry it. And I do dry things under pressure. I do not use a high temperature when I'm doing this. I'm using 130 degrees, and you keep it low temperature, and you just change your blotters out, and the blotter will help keep the shape of the book. So that's very important.
We talk about it in our book, Comic Book Conservation, Shelby and I, and this is actually something that's talked about in the paper conservation literature quite a bit. The secret is called constrained drying.
Yeah,
You
okay.
control the drying of the document so that it doesn't shrink as it's dried. If you wet it and just throw it on a countertop to dry, it will definitely you'll have dimensional changes, right? But if you constrain the dimensions as you dry it, you can recreate the original dimensions. And Larry and I have both done videos on our channel showing, that you can wet these pages and dry them and have literally 0 dimensional change down to the fraction of a millimeter as we measure it. So, but it's technique driven.
Yeah, it came out great. I've actually got the book, right here.
Ooh, dude, let's go solo.
Larry, when you did all the work prior to submitting, did you expect the universal grade? Did you think that there's a very good chance and that it could be conserved, or what were your thoughts on that?
It's kind of like gambling. You don't know what you're gonna get, and I had hoped. I looked at everything I did, and I said I didn't do anything that falls into the realm of conservation that would garner the label. The pages showed quite nicely after being cleaned and deacidified. The cover, everything kind of matched. The interior cover, it still retained that creamy. You don't want to get that bright white. That's over. That's just you're over cleaning. So you just got to work that fine line. Did I know? No, I had no idea. Was I happy? Of course, I was thrilled to get a 6.0 out of it.
You knew it was a possibility because you had communicated with Matt, who told you this is what you need to do for the possibility of universal.
That's correct. Yeah. So, so I was very happy with it. I mean, it just really came out great.
Congratulations!
It gives you confidence and a job more than well done. This is excellent.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Really, great work, Larry.
Thank you. So anyway, if anybody wants to see this, you go to the next slide. There's 2 videos of it up on YouTube, and you can catch those there. So anyway, equity. So there's not many of these books out there. So I did buy it off of Heritage as is, and for $3.12. You go to the next slide, and there's really nothing out there. The closest thing I could find was the $480 for 6.0, and that was a year ago.
How's your page quality on your
off-white to white?
Yeah,
nice.
This particular one that sold for $480 was cream to off-white.
That's correct. So it's a little bit less page quality. So I think in the overrun, I have equity in it with the grading process and everything else. So I think a little bit. And this is thanks to the last slide. If you want to go watch it,
absolutely.
There's two videos up. You can see the entire process start to finish.
Everybody should be checking that out.
Yeah.
Wonderful result. Good job.
Yeah,
Larry, I remember when you worked on that. Was it the Ghost Rider 2? The light blue? Yeah.
Ghost Rider 2 is the one that had the bad water stain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, who is this guy? And then you're Larry. Like, I had no idea. Like,
I know that. Like, that's the guy.
Like 70 shows later. Yeah, no, it's just so funny.
Well, it's like this. It's like, that America's Finest book that Dr. Paul showed us earlier, that he took the glue off of, and that was my Kickstarter actually. That got me working on books, and I always joke around and I say I blame Dr. Paul.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Paul looked at my work, and I can't remember which one it was. It was Ghost Rider. Yeah, that's the one. It was either the Ghost Rider book or it was the Men's Adventure book that I worked on that caught his eyes. I want to watch this guy. And that's how we met.
Yep.
And I met you Phil through Dr. Paul as well. So three of us, here we are.
Here's I think probably Jason the archivist is the only one who could name these 4 characters. I don't know how many else how many.
Yeah, Jason's got some good videos out there.
I don't think you were here earlier. I showed off your
yeah. Jason just popped up.
Startling 23 featuring Pyroman. This is an excellent Pyroman cover. There's one or two I like better than this, but this is definitely one of the best Pyroman covers ever. There's actually a crazy Pyroman cover that
I think this is the one you're gonna see.
It's definitely cringeworthy. So Pyroman, who's a hero, is standing in front of like a Japanese embassy. The embassy's aflame. People are literally in the building being burned alive. And there's some Japanese firefighters trying to put the fire out, presumably that he set because he's Pyroman. And he's holding the fire hose twisted like this, like he.
Underrated cover. It's so good.
And I'm like, what? So cringy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pyroman.
Cool book.
Definitely a great costume from the Golden Age, Pyroman. Anyway, that's what we have for you, folks.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed your hour and 15 minutes with us. We enjoyed spending it with you.
Give the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. We appreciate that.
Tell a friend. Tell a friend about the channel. Tell an enemy about our channel.
Yeah, please do.
We don't care.
We just sit here waiting until next Sunday. Like we don't have any. We're just waiting.
Yes, that's all we do.
Like teachers, when you're a kid, you're like, you just live in the school, right?
Thank you all so much for joining us.
We'll see you next week.
Appreciate you whether you're watching live or you're watching us later, and hope you enjoyed the show. We had a great time putting it together. Thank you both, Phil and Larry, for joining me. It's just
Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Always such a pleasure, so much fun. And
I like hanging out with you guys on the weekends.
It's always fun. And I want to say, really great job on that book, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again. Really great. To Robbie Josephs and Don Carter for sponsoring this episode. Next episode is on collecting chaos. Go check those guys' channels out. Check out Jason's channel. Check out the professors. Check out Sales Boys. Have a great week. And until next time.
I got one more thing, just a preview.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to talk about this. There's a story behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
So this was a restored book.
Ooh.
So we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Is that next episode?
We can talk about it next episode.
That's called a teaser, folks.
That's a teaser. Right. That is a definite teaser.
Until next time, take care of one another.
All right. See you guys later.
Thanks for tuning in.